helps a lot. And that's one of the areas in which, a lot of us who've been talking to each other about it, we find that women kind of are at a disadvantage where we don't talk enough about our journeys. There are very few to start with, and then and we are so busy with a lot of other things going on that it's harder for us to speak up about it. So we try to do these sessions where we invite some of the very successful women entrepreneurs who are building businesses, scaled businesses successfully. And today we have Rhea Singhal with us. Most of you know her. She's a global thought leader, and talks a lot on climate change, and a young global leader, YGL as well. She's also very successfully is building her business Ecoware, which is at the intersection of sustainability, um, and a very large market and need that we face today. So I'm actually very, very thrilled and excited about hearing about her journey, some of the advice she has, because it's a tough thing. We are all talking about all of the existential risks that humanity faces, pollution, plastic pollution, all of that is there, but it's very hard to finally build a sustainable business while doing good, while having that impact, while making that change happen, because it's going against the grain. So, and I've heard a little bits and pieces of Ria's journey in some of the panels we've been together on, and but today I'm thrilled to kind of do a deep dive with her on this. Shalu and Ria have known each other for a long time. So, Shalu, why don't you introduce and set the stage?
Uh, it's wonderful to have Ria here. Ria and I connected uh, across. The she was a bench front of me at a course at Harvard, and half the time we were gossiping instead of doing what we were supposed to. And, and we built a friendship that I love.
Yeah.
Um, and Ria is there's so many things that I can say about Ria. She's passionate. Uh, Sustainability is not easy. Everybody talks sustainability. Nobody wants to do sustainability, and the leader for us, who through grit and passion is building a business, and uh, one of the foremost businesses that we need to bet on in our country. India is obviously well recognized by in many forums, um, and is an eco warrior and won the Nari Shakti Award, um, and leads the women's agenda to CII very successfully, which you've heard. So, Ria, let me ask you off mm, with almost a question that seems too obvious. What drives you?
What drives me? Oh, wow. Um, Today, Shalini, I always say that I think, I think my drive today is obviously different to when I started my journey. But today for me, it is just the impact we've created and the want to do more. I went, I mean, little things like my kids, right? We're setting an example for them. I want my daughter and my son to know that, you can work, run a house, multitask, like you can do it all. Like you don't have to pick and choose. And I think that's really important. And I went to the factory just the other day, and because of COVID, we've created bubbles, and I've not been for some time. We've kind of like kept the office separate, we've kept the factory separate, to avoid cases and whatever in COVID incidences and stuff like that. And I when I started this factory, we were 100% men, right? So my factory is in Greater Noida, UP. It was never easy, and Shalini, I was so proud to see. And typically, when women join us, they join us in the packing department because it's sort of the easiest place to kind of settle in, and and I saw more women running machines than I had ever seen. And I was so proud of that, and I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing, because that's what I've wanted. And we've always encouraged them to come in and say that just because you start here, this is not where you have to end up. Like, if you want to do more, let's learn, let's expand, let's and that's sort of a culture that we've created. And it's things like that. It's these little moments of impact where you're just like, is really important to me, and that drives me. And I take a lot of pride. Obviously, climate change is becoming more and more of a topic of conversation. People are realizing what a big issue it is, and I take a lot of pride in the fact that we are part of the solution and not the problem. So for me, it's my impact that drives me, and my kids. So yeah, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I said thank you, Ria. It was such a fabulous way of putting it. Um,
Thank you.
I Going back, how did you was impact always at the heart of um, how you part of how you started this? Can you tell us a little more about your journey? Um,
Sure. So, by way of background, I'm a pharmacologist. I used to work for Pfizer in the UK. Obviously, everybody knows Pfizer now, right? I think they're more popular now than when they launched Viagra, to be honest, but that's a separate conversation. But, and I was doing really well at Pfizer. My husband was an investment banker at Deutsche Bank. And in '08, obviously, subprime happened. It rocked our lives, and we were seeking stability, which obviously, being in London, was not going to give us. And he said, "Would you?" So we said, "Let's move," and we tossed up between Dubai, London. Sorry, Dubai. Where do we go? India. And I somehow had this confidence that I would always find a job. I don't know why. Like, I mean, I was like, now I think like, wow, what a naive 26-year-old, right? Like, you think you can do anything? And so I said that I told Nishant, I said, you figure out where you want to be. This is important. I mean, your industry is obviously, more rocked than what I want to do. So you lead, and I'm happy to follow. So we ended up in Delhi. And to do the same job that I was doing at Pfizer in the UK, Pfizer India wanted me to have an MBA. And which was quite shocking. No one really cared about my experience, my achievements, my numbers, the revenue I brought in. Like, no one was interested. It was like, do you have an MBA? And I was just like, no, I don't. But I do come with 5 years of experience, and really good experience. So anyway, no one was willing to entertain me. And then I thought, okay, I explored this MBA thing. I went to a 3-week GMAT class at Jamboree, and I felt like I was like, part of me died from the inside, like on a daily basis. Because I've always been one of these people, like, I love to learn on the job. I'm not a textbook person at all. And 3 weeks in, I said, I didn't even do the exam. I was like, I don't want to do this. And my father-in-law has been a serial entrepreneur, and he said that, why don't you decide to do something? And we talked about it, and sorry, there's like a lot of thunder around me. So we talked about it, and I said, yeah, sure, this sounds interesting. And we thought about Ecoware and what it would mean in India. And in May '09, I went and registered my company. And literally that day, GlaxoSmithKline called me and said, if there's a job there, if you want it, and we don't want an MBA. And I was just like, I debated it for like 30 seconds, and I was just like, no, I don't think so. And I started Ecoware in '09, honestly, as an experiment, right? And I think I was in a fortunate place in my life. I was 27 years old. One of us was working with we had financial stability, right? Like, one of us had a solid job. So it gave me the opportunity to kind of take that risk. I never ever thought that Ecoware would be what it is today when I started this. And I think I started it with the thing that, okay, I mean, I want to do this. Let's see what happens. I never overthought it. I never said, okay, this is, from day one, I want to become a 100 crore company. Or I was like, I want to play around with this product. I want to build a market and let's see where it takes us. And I think, Shalini, what, 2010, we serviced the Commonwealth Games, which was a massive opportunity. We did the entire village, all the stadiums. About 2012, I realized I'd created, 3 years in, I created a demand I couldn't keep up with. And this was no longer an experiment. This is actually something very real. And so at that point, Nishant, my husband, he quit his job and he joined me because we then were growing like fourfold. We went from doing 2 products to over 30 products. We went from like 20 people to 120 people. We went from a really small factory to like a 40,000 square foot like facility. So we now both had our skin in the game, and I think that was the point where we said, okay, this is more real, and this is we. I think just thought about it more, and that's where we are today. So, and we've just been growing year on year, so it's been great.
That's what product market fit looks like, right? I mean, it's I try to talk about it and try and give examples, but that's exactly what product market fit looks like, where there's so much demand that's happening and something clicks. And Ria, how did the Commonwealth opportunity, that was a big opportunity, how did that opportunity come about?
So my father-in-law, who has been like my I think the reason I have survived doing business in India, because you need, and I don't think any textbook can really teach you what it's like to be an entrepreneur
Yes.
in India. And I think India is a completely different breed altogether. And so he said the games are coming up. Why don't we explore this? So I said okay, and we tried to go in and meet people and stuff like that. And um, I met somebody who I'm still really good friends with, actually, Sharayu, and she was looking after catering, and similar ages, similar vibe, and I think I stalked her like till I was like, hello, like, is this happening? Not happening? Like, I was in front of her office every day, because I think like at Pfizer, I learned, I was doing medical sales, right? So at my time then, I was like, I learned that there is never a customer you cannot see. There is not a no see customer. Like, you will, perseverance will pay off. And Shirai still jokes about it now. She's like, oh my God, like, and Pooja, I was very, very persistent, because I think, the entire tendering process was a mess, right? So the Games Village came out with what do you call them? Like their terms, I suppose. And then it went, I remember, to Ashoka Hotel, and then I would run there, and they were like, no, we subcontracted to Nirula's, and then I would run there. And then I realized that someone from Australia was actually now looking after this. So I just went on their website and I said that, this is what I do and I want to connect with somebody. And then that happened. And then, and it sort of just formalized. But I had my eye on the goal, ultimately. And I was like, this is what I want to do. So I was just relentless with it, to be honest.
Actually, that's the reason I asked that question, Ria. When you hear something like that you get that contract, it's like this one sentence. You feel like, oh, the hero's journey. You just kind of go and get it, right? But there is just so much
Yeah.
grit and persistence and perseverance behind the scenes where and typically these first large contracts come like that, because that time that's all you have. You don't have your brand, you
You
don't
were a
have,
nobody.
you're a nobody, right? And somebody has to uh, take a punt on you and say, oh, I trust her
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur. And when you show that hunger and when you show that persistence um, and of course the product is good, that's when things begin to happen. So fantastic. And I can relate to it because in my IntelliTalks journey, the first contract was like that, the big contract. It took 1 year of literally putting your ego in your boots and just talking to 100 different people and making that happen.
I mean, I think it's still a very, a very integral part of who I am even now. Like as an entrepreneur, I think that if you've got, you've got this vision, you've got this goal, and I'm very hungry about, if I want to achieve something, I will make sure that I go out and get it. Now, whether it's, for my family or the business, but, just I suddenly remembered the CWG time, and I was 27. I mean, I had other men in sort of traders and in this space who would be like, call me and say, "Acha, आपका तो letter of intent नहीं आया, मेरा तो आ गया." And I was just like, what did I do wrong? And I would reflect with my father-in-law. I was like, I've run everywhere, I've covered all my bases. And he's like, calm down, no one's got anything, they're just playing you. And I was like, oh my God. So I would get these phone calls from random people just so, like to kind of to intimidate you, basically. So yeah.
Yeah. Great. And Rhea, you bootstrapped the company all the way through. Did you think about funding at any point in time? How did you kind of make the big decision between which game to play?
Oh God, Pooja, I could write a book on funding. My experiences on funding. So yes, bootstrapped. In 2016, we basically had it was a very proud moment for us as a company. We innovated with the Indian Railways for 10 months, right? And we developed a product that was bespoke to them, which was then went out and got tendered. And we got a very small part of that business. And at that point, we thought it was a good, a good time to go out and sort of seek funding, right? Because we had to grow and we had to get machinery, etc. And it was the worst 6 months of my life. Like I absolutely hated it. No one understood what I was trying to do. Packaging is not a sexy space. It certainly wasn't in 2016. I think investment in India is very herd mentality. So yes, I will invest in a chai point and a chayos, but I don't see the point. Who are using my product, but I will not invest in you, right? I don't see the future in this. I mean, it was just something else. And I think what was also so apparent was it's just there's so many men. It was a very man-driven landscape, and and I think it got to a point where I was like, enough. I've heard enough. Like, I know my business better than anybody else. Like, I brought it to this point and I will certainly grow, whether an investor is on board or not. Obviously, I will grow quicker with an investor. TK, if they're not there, they're not there. And I was like, but no one, I wasn't going to allow anyone to distort my vision. And I was tired of that. So I actually went to a local bank where the branch manager was a lady, and I raised a line of debt, and she was fantastic. She was like, it literally was like one meeting, and we'd gone to Sidby, we'd gone here, I'd gone there, and she was like, right, what do you need? And I said, this is what I'm trying to do, and I want to raise 6 crores. And she's like, fine. This is what you need to do. Let's do it. And it was the happiest moment. I mean, it was the easiest, calmest thing that I had done in terms of raising funding. So that was 16. Last year, we got recognized by Expo 2020 as part of their innovation program and Unreasonable Impact, which is in partnership with Barclays. And we got grants from them, which was great. But yeah, to finish off my funding story, in 2019, I think, there was a Singapore fund, and very aligned with circular economy, etc., that approached us. So I thought, okay, this makes sense. You're in the space, you understand what we're trying to do. It's now 2019. I think there's more about ESG also happening. And Pooja, 2020, we locked down end of March. And we were supposed to sign our SHA on the 15th of April. And then they came to us and they said that we want to change the valuation of the company because of COVID. And I just said, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do this because I actually think my business is more valuable now, post-COVID, than it was pre. So, if that's a conversation you want to have, that's fine. But I was like, I'm not getting in bed with someone who is just so morally not sound, I suppose, right? So I walked away from that.
Mm.
And yeah, so I think that, funding, I think there's certainly a lot that needs to be done for women. The landscape needs to change. I think I would love to have more done around ESG and natural environment, and people understand that space better. But right now, I'm happy with my two grants, my line of debt, and I wouldn't dilute my company for anybody who didn't understand what I was trying to do.
And that's the way to do it, really. And one of the things that is very, and I'm hearing so many stories of this where the fundraising is glamorized so much in our
Yeah, it is.
media. And I see founders just being left with very, very little equity at the
Yeah.
end of that journey, where they have slogged, they've given up control, and taken direction. Yes, they've grown, but it's sad to see that. So I think it's a very important point that you're making is it's not just equity funding from pure play VCs is not the only way to fund your business. Just figuring out what's right for you at what stage is important. And in your case, debt worked because you had a factory, you had assets that you could um, run it, take it again. So um, yeah, fantastic. And again, the other point you made about it being very in venture capital, the proportion of women is even lesser, right? Maybe 1 to 2% probably. As women entrepreneurs, it's funded women entrepreneurs is probably 10 to 12%, and venture capitalists is even lesser. So that's the other point. And by the way, I want to tell everyone that we finally made our first angel investment in as CEO Club in a women-led team called Wonderland. It's a preschool at home product.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
Congratulations.
very excited about that. And I was very excited about that meeting where we were three women investors with two women founders pitching the business. So that happened. Great. Another question I had, Ria, as you were talking about, working with the railways and Commonwealth, and um, was how, when we talk about sustainable solutions, when we talk about organic food, good for the environment stuff, we always think a price premium that needs to be paid over, the cheap plastic, the cheaper options that are available. Now, working with the government agencies like that, and also otherwise, how did you strike that balance of being able to create a sustainable solution, having impact, but at the same time creating a sustainable business with the right kind of margins and keeping costs in check and 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 pricing which the market can bear?
So that's a really good question, Pooja. I think that when I started, I was certainly 11 years ago. The price difference between us and plastic, a good quality plastic, was 3x. Right, with economies of scale, we've driven that down to 15%. And I know that when we grow, even like our next stage of growth, we will now then be net, right? Um, so with economies of scale, we will enjoy that benefit, yes. Um, what I would love to see is our GST exposure reduce. Unfortunately, that is not happening. We are still exposed to 12% GST. And even zero would be fantastic, but even at five or something like that, I think it would make it more economical. Third, conversations right now about pricing are the number of conversations I had when I started about pricing probably were 80% of my conversations. Now it's down to maybe 20%, 15%. Everyone now just wants the product. They want it quicker, sooner. Can you customize? Can you co-brand? Those are the kind of conversations we're having. So I think what's changing is the consumer mindset. You're definitely seeing the people understand the need for a product such as like this, and they want it. What's certainly insightful is that people aren't, when we did a customer brief, no one's buying. The first reason to buy is not environment. The first reason to buy is actually because it's a really good quality product, right? So it's good quality, and then sort of environment is maybe second and third in your reason to buy. So, when anyone starts a new brand, they want to deliver that brand promise in good quality, right? Ultimately, so because everyone's thinking of consumer experience. Um, so that's kind of the where we are with conversations with pricing. Even with the railways, it wasn't hard to, they had what typically on that tray they have three aluminum casseroles, etc., etc. We sort of did a costing of what all of that would look like, and with us, and it was only like 15% more. So, and that was something that they were willing to pay for. People are willing to pay that little bit extra for a better quality product ultimately.
Right. And there was a similar question along the same lines, and I think you answered part of it, which is how did you convince people about buying an eco-friendly product when the price point was higher? Um, and and a related question there is, Ria, was it a phenomenon in only tier one cities, or you saw that in tier two, tier three cities as well? So, kind of, how did you go about segmenting the customer base and saying, this is the customer that buy for it, and this is why they will buy for it, buy this.
So I think initially when you think about push and pull marketing, like it was very like it was sort of need based, right? So people would inquire, we would go there, and but now that's completely changed, Pooja. I don't like I can sit in my office and it just sort of flood of inquiries, right? So we are no longer driving it; it's coming inwards now. Um, when I started, no one knew what biodegradable, compostable meant. Like, I understood that this was good for the environment. I understood that it's not going to end up in a landfill. But like I said, a lot of people were buying this just purely because it was a better quality product. My chart guy who doing weddings was like, I don't want to use Areca because um, uh, in the monsoon, storage is an issue. Even my distributor in Maharashtra was like, I can buy this and I can store it for 6 months and nothing's going to happen to it. It's not going to smell. There's no fungus sitting on it. It's a better quality product. And so I'd like to, replace this with the Areca kind of thing. Sorry, replace the Areca with this. So there were different reasons. Obviously the environment, like I said, the environment thing caught on with a lot of education drives that we did and creating awareness. And slowly plastic bans sort of came in. Karnataka did a great job in 2016. We had the Maharashtra ban come in. We had more and more conversations, and then the government started talking about Swachh Bharat and things like that. So I guess with the masses, like that, like helped also when you talk about education and awareness, right? But initially, like I sold it because it was just a better product to have. And in terms of tier one, yes, it was very much tier one to start with. And I think like I got surprised where, we launched on Amazon, I think maybe 16, 17, and we had orders from Behrampur and Ada and like, these sort of places. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Like honestly, like I was surprised because I was like, oh, I just expect people in like Bombay, Pune, Chennai to kind of like, Hyderabad and all like the tier ones mainly to like order. But and so then we changed our sales strategy as well. And now we get a lot of inquiries from tier two. We have a lot of point of sales in tier two also. So yeah. So it's no longer just a tier one sort of premium product.
So thank you, Ria. You make it sound easy, but
Shalini, that's really funny coming from you.
like the but through this and knowing you, I see a core of ethics, and you're not willing to uh, uh, to compromise around that. Uh,
Absolutely.
and if there this, how would you, how do you define, uh, did you find that core of ethics a strength, or were there times when you said, there are others, there is competition
Yeah.
that is not there, and how did you think about it? How, what was there even a mental conundrum for you at all?
Of course, and I think that, like I said, there are people that try to intimidate you, right? I mean, you are a woman, you're young. How much do you really know? Like, they think, how much does she really know about doing business in India? So there is always like, there are always moments that you are exposed to that. Um, but my mother always taught me. She's like, "Tumhari," like if I go to her with anything, Shalini, and she's here now, and she's like, "Tumhari himmat kahan hai?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, fine, reset. I found my himmat." Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm a human being. I have my moments of anxiety, and but I think with competition, I welcome anyone who's actually genuine about this. Okay, so I'm very clear about my vision. I've got my head down, and I know what I want to achieve in the next 10 years, and I will do it. Now, and competition. Who doesn't have competition? There's every product in the market that has competition, right? But for what I've seen, like people, yes, we have competitors in the market, but are they using 100% sugarcane fiber? Have they certified every claim that they've made on their product? Okay, are they a true closed loop solution? Do they have the ability to innovate with someone like Etihad Airlines, with the McDonald's of the world? Like, if that is, I look forward to healthy competition. Yes, there's no doubt about that. Um, but I feel like it's kind of low hanging fruit. I feel like everyone thinks like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's jump the bandwagon. We don't really know how, and then they realize how difficult it is and they cut corners. And I'm just like, there's enough greenwash in the market. We need proper players who are actually going to solve this problem. And it's amazing because we what is it? CPCB are now banning 6 plastic products, and the Delhi government had invited stakeholders, including myself, to be part of this call, and I was absolutely shocked. I thought there was lack of education on the consumer side. There is lack of education on the traders. There is lack of education on the manufacturers. Like, people don't understand what they're putting out there. Okay, so they will, as far as any kind of competition is concerned, I'm always very clear that this is my goal, and I'm set to, go get it basically. And the market's big enough, so bring it on.
And I can completely attest to that when I see Ria going at it through every obstacle that comes her way.
So, Shalini, I'm the most persistent person. Like, I've hounded you when I wanted things done. I'm like, and I think as an entrepreneur, if you don't ask, you don't get. So, no one else is going to do it, right? So I think persistence definitely pays off.
Thank you so much for that answer. Uh, Pooja, do you have any questions, or should we open it
Yeah,
up for the
I have
audience?
the, and there were questions in the registration forms. One was, of course, around the big black swan event that we've all been part of, which is COVID. So, Ria, I'm sure the business was impacted in some form or fashion with COVID. Would you be able to tell us about, what that experience was like when that hit, how you thought about it, for good, for worse, and how you dealt with that? Now it's been a year and a half almost, but still,
Yeah.
what was your journey like when this thing hit us?
So I think, Pooja, where I am as an entrepreneur now, I feel like I will always figure it out. Like, you'll find a solution. Okay, so let's just start there. Basically, we'll figure it out. Um, it was obviously daunting. Like I said, we walked away from a big investment deal. Um, we were back at the drawing board, and it's amazing because I walked away, and the next day I was like, I don't even have time to dwell on that. Like, right, COVID focus, what are we doing, kind of thing, right? The key priority for us is, out of 120 people, we have 90 blue collar workers, and we did not want to let them go.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was very important for us. We encouraged people to stay where they were. We didn't draw, like, as founders, we didn't draw a salary. The priority was to make sure that we cut no jobs and we paid our blue collar workers. So they got 100%. My staff level still took pay cuts, right? At some point, but the priority was to secure these guys. We didn't want, we all read the horrible stories of the migration of labor, the back and forth, all that kind of thing. And that was just something that we didn't want. So protecting our team was number one. It was very, very important. During lockdown last year, we did a lot of, so we sort of divided smaller teams, and everyone sort of had like 6 people that they had to call and, stay in touch with and make sure everyone was doing okay. So, they didn't feel like isolated, or just no one knew what was going on, right? COVID was so new and it was very daunting. So it was really important to keep the two-way communication open and check in on people. And so we made sure we did that. When we opened, finally, we unlocked in the end of May, we started production. It was really hard because the utility companies were after us. They were like, pay your bills now. And, a conversation I'd had, on the 8th of March is Women's Day, right? So I was facilitated by Nitin Gadkari and the MSME. I was facilitated by Amitabh Kant and Niti Aayog. And like literally 2 months later, I'm like, where is the support for women entrepreneurs?
Right.
Like, this is not just a trophy thing, and my thing was with any of my vendors, I was like, I have literally just unlocked. I have every intention of paying you, but I also have 1 crore of outstanding in the market that I need to collect, right? QSRs, etc., were not open. Everyone was struggling. So there was, and who understood that financial relief package that was announced last year? I didn't understand a word of it. I didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
And it was through the networks, it was through writing to people that I actually got some sort of relief of 10 days, 15 days. And we created payment plans for everybody. We said, listen, we might not be able to pay you 15 lakhs at one go, but here is 2, 3, 5, 6, whatever it is, right? And we've cleared it. So that was a little daunting, I would say, for sure, that, till about June. And then we stabilized. We started getting a lot of export orders, Pooja, because I think the world sort of opened and unlocked at different phases. So that gave us a little stability. That meant that we kept manufacturing going, that we kept people employed. The idea last year was not to bleed. So we were very clear that our operations are lean, our costs are controlled, and that was that. We had to keep everyone protected, and that was the goal, basically. So we were very, very controlled about operations, how, our manufacturing, and then we realized that through COVID, Ecoware just became more pertinent. Like, people who are isolating at home, COVID patients, households. So many, we had people in Maharashtra say that, I spend X amount on someone coming and doing my cooking or cleaning or whatever it is. And because of lockdown, no one's come. So I've reinvested that amount in buying Ecoware, and it works because I don't have to wash up.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of carried us through. And then we got to, and we got 2 grants, which obviously it sort of was nice to know that you had some money in the bank, I suppose. And then we had this April again. Fortunately for us, the factory didn't shut down this year. So it kept going. And we had, I think that in terms of shipping and logistics, exports has become a little harder, especially when we sort of our consignments to Australia, etc., getting containers, shipping costs. There's so much volatility in that space. But I mean, I guess that's not something that we have control of. Um, Otherwise, yeah, we've grown. We've realized that COVID has sort of pivoted us into this D2C space. So we're very much D2C. I mean, Charlie knows how aggressive I am on Amazon India. We've launched on Amazon Dubai. We sell on Noon. We're getting into as many sort of global online platforms because people just want product like ours. And it just seems to be the quickest way to procure. Um, and I was excited because I've actually been able to hire people this year, which is great, and our team is still growing.
Yeah.
So it's not been. So we've had moments where it's certainly been daunting, but it hasn't been all bad. Like I know even when we opened in June, I went to the bank and I said, "Can I get just some working capital, like to see me through June?" And they were like, "It's going to take 3 weeks." Pooja, I hustled like I have never hustled before, like as an entrepreneur. We got at least like every 3-4 export orders, advance payments, we got our cash flows, we got everything going. And it was my team, and it was just us going, we're not gonna stop.
Yeah. And honestly, Rhea, I can relate to every word you are saying. Just from starting out to seeing all these schemes coming out and thinking, oh my God, there is some relief, and then realizing there's nothing coming out there. And I've not heard anyone who's
Yeah.
benefited from those, right? And then, just protecting your employees, opportunities opening up in areas where you didn't think they would. And that's what keeps you going. Um, so I actually have a lot of questions still, but I think there are some questions in the audience as well. Kanchan, you've asked a few questions. Please go ahead and ask.
Yeah. So, Ria, fantastic learnings from your sometimes tumultuous journey, and sometimes, a lot of things to cheer about, especially the one about Nari Shakti Puraskar. I think that's amazing that you're doing
Thank you.
this wonderful job, which is being appreciated at the highest level. So, quite inspiring. I had two questions. One was around company culture. How do you, as a founder, go about building a stellar company culture? And the second one was around, in terms of sustainability trends, what are you seeing in India? What about the world? Are things changing for the better? Thank you.
So, Kanchan, I'm going to answer the second part of your question first. In terms of sustainability trends, like I said, I think climate change, people are talking about it more. I think that there's more constructive news and conversations even in the media about this. Documentaries on Netflix, conversations in schools. So, yes, people are becoming more and more aware. I don't think it's still quick enough for the problem that we have to solve.
Right.
So I think that remains quite a big challenge. And I think the second thing that, we are definitely seeing trends in consumer behavior change, but I think that we've got to think closed loop solutions. Okay, our challenge in India is slightly different. We don't have waste management. We don't have formal waste segregation systems. We're not like the West where we have recycling centers or industrial composting. So whatever we put out there, we need to be clear about what that end of life of that product is. So it makes our challenges it makes it more challenging, I suppose, in India. And I think that I always say that, okay, Ecoware is not an answer for everyone, but what's important right now is that we move as individuals from, rampant consumerism to conscious consumerism as much as we possibly can, right? We go back to that frugal society that India has been before, everything was suddenly available and there was disposable income and the markets just sort of flooded. I remember my grandmother using ice cream boxes to death. From Dubai, she would call for like empty Tang boxes or like plastic bags. And I mean, just reuse as much as possible, right? Whether it's us, our kids, if we can use our businesses as platforms for change, I think that's also very, very important. And I think ultimately as a business leader, you've got to realize that your consumer is changing. It's going to be our children, it's the Greta Thunbergs of the world, and are you ready to sell to those people, right? So yes, we are seeing trends, but like I said, I think it's the momentum that needs to be a lot quicker. And until we have, it has to be a two-prong approach where you are becoming more conscious in terms of a consumer as well. And in terms of company culture, so for me, I company culture sort of for me stemmed from, I guess, the team I worked at Pfizer, right? Obviously, I was a junior. I was motivated by my manager, by my business director, who I'm still in touch with now, 11 years later. And I think that was very important for me. I realized that I was the kind of person that um, I had to be motivated by my team, and I try and do this exactly the same thing. So it's an open door policy. We make decisions collectively. It's not just my husband and I, and this is what it is. Everyone comes with their wealth of knowledge, and we will debate out decisions. It doesn't matter what your designation is, I suppose, is what I mean to say. And that's sort of the front office. I think from a factory perspective, it's been a little harder, especially because I've wanted to get more women in, and our supervisors are mostly men, because we run 2 shifts, day, night, all that sort of stuff. And so they've obviously thought that, there's why hire women, because they can't work the night shift, the output's lower. And I was just like, no. So trying to change that, trying to, even as something as aggressive as the caste system, Kanchan, I've even dealt with that. I have a small mandir in the factory, and I asked one of the ladies, I said, would you mind? Because I don't go every day. I said, would you mind just lighting the diya and cleaning it? And then somebody came and said, oh, but she cleans the bathrooms. And I was like, I clean the bathrooms in my house, and I still like it's not something I would think about, but so I think from a factory perspective and blue collar, it's certainly taken longer for me to be taken seriously, and the culture that I've wanted to create to be respected. But like I said, I've been very persistent, and I think that when my husband and I walk in, like, I think people just automatically think like they'll veer to him, with or try and complain about me, and he's just not tolerated any of it, because he's like, I am macro. I will look at like the larger, the other things, and I look at day-to-day ops. So, whether it's leave applications, you've not shown up to work, you've, and it's typical. I mean, on payday, once payday happens, I can tell you at least 5 people who squandered the money the next day on alcohol and not shown up. Just changing all of that basically has taken me longer, certainly at the factory, but I think we've now got to some level of discipline and respect, and I think that's really important. I think it's been easier at the front end.
Right. Thank you for that and sharing it so frankly. Thank you.
Right. Anupma, you had a question.
Yes, Pooja. So, if an entrepreneur is just starting out, Rhea, and is really keen on making an impact, especially in this space, sustainability and climate change, what do you what where is a good place to start? It's yeah, the space is not as straightforward as like edtech or any other space, honestly, for an entrepreneur.
So look, I feel that sustainability now needs to be built into anything that you do, right? So it's not about having a green business necessarily. What I'm saying is that whatever you do should be a green business. And I think that whatever you do, please create purpose and create impact, right? Whether it's social, whether it is health, whether it is environmental, and those are parameters that you should measure your business by. ESG should be built in. Get audited, like make sure it's important, make sure it's and you're loud and proud about it as well, and make sure it's something that your team as well are in aligned to. Is there something that you like, a specific idea you had, or
No, nothing specific, still figuring out where to start really.
okay,
And yeah, I don't have a background in this.
that makes no difference whatsoever. I can
Right.
feel that. So that is that as long as you've got I think you've got a very clear vision. You should have a very clear vision about what you want to do. Okay, so that's really important. I feel that you can have good days and bad days, and coming from a larger organization, when you had a good day, everyone patted you in the back. When you had a bad day, you had a network to kind of bounce off, etc. As an entrepreneur, you always have that. It is literally your drive and the goal that you want to achieve is going to get you through those bad days. So, please make sure that you are very clear about what you want to achieve.
Got it. Thanks, Ria.
Sorry, I mean, I'm happy to bounce any ideas once you have more thought around it. So
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I would love that. Thanks a lot.
no problem.
Garima, you have one question. We have only 3 to 5 minutes left. So, Garima, you had a question. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you, Pooja. Sure. So, Rhea, amazing journey as an entrepreneur, really inspiring. My question may sound a bit cliche, but I wanted to ask this. So, do you feel luck also has a role in one's success, or being persistent overrules that?
Shalini, I remember there was something at Harvard about luck. I can't remember exactly what it was. But Garima, to answer your question, I think persistence plays a bigger part.
Okay.
Look, you can. I mean, this small amount of being in the right place at the right time, or seeing somebody and seeing where that leads you, and maybe that's a connect, or that eventually is an introduction. But I honestly think it's persistence. I think it is about these characters of an entrepreneur, right? I will go into a room and walk in and talk to everybody.
Okay.
I'm happy to make friends. I'm happy to connect. I think Pooja, Kavish, right? And Kavish
Yes.
always says that it's just be open-minded. You never know where it's going to take you. So that's sort of the approach that I've gone in with, and then I am very, very persistent, and I think that definitely has more to do with than luck, basically.
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
I remember it is preparation meets opportunity, and you loved it.
Yes, that's what it was.
So, I just want to add a quick story here, Garima.
Sure.
There is to kind of highlight that point. Alexander Fleming, everybody's heard of him, right? He discovered penicillin, and he was a Scottish physician, worked in many different areas. He was in London, was trying to do some things. He did not enter medical school immediately. He worked in a shipping office for 4 years, and then he thought, what do I do? He went to some school. When World War I broke out, he served in Army Medical Corps as a captain. Uh, and he, as he was seeing the death of his fellow soldiers, he kind of kept thinking about some of the things, started to do some research in that area. And a long journey where he was doing many, many, many different things. And once, basically, as he was getting close to finding a cure for some of these wounds that he was seeing in the army, um, he had to leave for vacation. And there was a petri dish that he left next to the window. Uh, Apparently, some spores flew in from the window and contaminated the petri dish, contaminated the material in the petri dish. And um, and when he came back, he saw that the experiment had not gone the way it was supposed to, because those spores had actually prevented it from spreading the way it needed to. So again, you can read about it. To cut a long story short, then penicillin was discovered due to this chance, but that chance did not happen on its own. There was 20 years worth of up and down and journey and trying many different things and not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow that led to that.
Yeah.
So preparation is important. You just have to keep trying, doing the things you do. And there are times that come along the way when that opportunity meets preparation. But if you're not prepared, that opportunity is worth nothing.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yes, luck plays a role, but I, just like Ria said, I believe as well that if you are prepared, if you're continuing to, uh, move in that direction or the vision that you have carved out for yourself, at some point those opportunities are going to strike, and you have to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Garima. And we had one last question. I think Ragini, you had a question, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, hi Ria. Thank you so
Hi,
much
Ragini.
for that insightful talk. I actually wanted to ask it not exactly about entrepreneurship, maybe a step before that. You mentioned that when you came to India and were looking for a job, people wanted an MBA from you, right? And you also mentioned Harvard and so what I wanted to understand was in being an entrepreneur, do you actually need to does a course help? Does an MBA help? Does a specific. I mean, because I want to start my entrepreneur journey and something to do with sustainability as well. But the feedback that I've got from my elders have been like maybe you do an MBA first, maybe yeah, a postgraduate degree first, maybe that will help. What's your take on that?
Look, my experience is like I said to you at the start, I prefer learning on the job, and that's what I thrive on. Okay, I genuinely, my husband's done an MBA. My father-in-law and I joke that he's not. My father-in-law hasn't done one. I haven't done one, and we joke that nothing can teach you. There isn't a textbook that's going to teach you how to do business in India, basically. So I whether it makes if you there's so much to learn as an entrepreneur, and I think that you can only learn that hands-on. All right. Yes, I have had the opportunity to do a Harvard module. I've had the opportunity to do a module at Oxford. They've been part of sort of the World Economic Forum program that Shalini and I are part of, and but Ragini, for me now, I've done that in sort of the last 3 years, right? They've been very short. It was 5 days somewhere, 2 weeks somewhere else, but I think what the value that I found in it now was that I'm a little bit more specific about what I'm seeking, right? So I had the time to self-reflect because I was pulled out of my day to day, and I was out for 2 weeks. I met some amazing people. I had some great conversations, and it gives your mind a little bit of a breather. We also had the opportunity to do something that was called a dream trust, where you're in a safe space and you talk about personal, professional, whatever it is, your next steps, or and to have those conversations, right? So I think because I'm a little more ahead, I've in being an entrepreneur, I've done it for 11 years. I felt like the spending time on education right now gave me a little bit more value because I knew what I was looking for, looking to get out of it, I suppose, than when I started. So yeah, I would say hit the ground running, and you'll realize there's so much you want to learn, and then you can just figure out where you want to spend your energy.
Yeah, thank you. That makes a lot of sense actually. I had similar thoughts that maybe if I have an idea in mind and if I can maybe give myself some time for it, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, I can always go back and
Yeah.
whatever I want. But if it works, and like you said, maybe I have like a more specific focus, something that I actually want to take out of a course, then I can use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ragini. Thank you, Ria. Could we all switch on our cameras for 1 minute, for half a minute, for a photo? No. Okay. Um, so thank you, Ria. This was just a fascinating discussion. I still have loads of questions, and I'm hoping we'll get to catch up sometime face to
Yes.
face when you're here in Bangalore, or I'm here in Delhi. But thank you so much. A few things that I am personally taking back is himmat kahan hai? You have to keep reminding yourself, because that just keeps getting thrown at you as an entrepreneur. And also, I think just having a North Star helps, whatever that is. For me, education has been that, just where I have some unspoken, some ideas that I've not been able to articulate, but it's there. For you, it's the sustainability, what we need to do for an environment, but just having some North Star helps, because this journey it can go in any different direction. Um, but knowing where you're headed by and large is helpful. And of course, as an entrepreneur, I think being an entrepreneur is synonymous with being persistent and just not giving up, because every day you just have to get up and get things done. So thank you so much, Ria. This was really a lovely conversation. Thank you for taking out the time, and I'm sure everyone really benefited from it. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great way to start the Saturday morning. I loved interacting with all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Al.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ria.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Kanchan. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.